day, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Coffin. I'm speaking to you from the January 2020 Metal Investors Forum in Vancouver. I'm here with Darwin Green, the CEO of HighGold Mining. HighGold is, you certainly know if you're one of my subscribers, but you may know HighGold was spun out from Constantine Metals last year. The symbol is HIGH, and it's HGOFF.
HGGOF.
Sorry, HGGOF. They just got an OTC symbol. Very well structured company. I mean, one of the advantages of doing this kind of spin, if you do it right, which Darwin did, you end up with a nice tight share structure. I think you've got 40 million shares out now.
Almost on the button. Yeah.
Very well financed. You're
14 million.
14
cash,
million.
Plus or minus, yeah.
Great. He's going to be able to go very hard at both the sort of the marquee project, if you will, in Alaska. Plus, also, you've got a bunch of stuff in Timmins. We can touch on that as well. Now, your Johnson Tract project in Alaska has generated in the past, and some of the drilling you just did, I mean, it generates phenomenal drill intercepts, like just crazy good intercepts, 70 meters, 10 grams, stuff like that. But what was interesting, I mean, when you picked that project up, and you and I talked about it, a year ago, it was one where a bunch of historic work had been done. It looked like the zone was kind of the zone. It had been outlined. You kind of knew where the edges were. But it was interesting that the last two holes that you put out from last season, maybe that's not the case, because it looks like you did, in fact, hit stuff outside of where you thought you were going to.
Yeah, there's a couple pieces to that. So one of them was hitting a brand new zone. It was about 60 meters into the footwall. Totally different character to the mineralization, really copper and silver rich. The gold was a little lower, but it was, beefy widths, chunky vein swarm. I think we used, 20 odd meters of about 2.5% copper, ounce silver, and 5% zinc. And really interesting. It's totally open. We're still trying to get our heads around it, but it looks to be on a different trend. Not exactly sure how it ties into the main deposit, but it was one of these kind of, without even trying too hard, kind of found something new, and it kind of confirmed our exploration thesis that, look, this thing's been severely underexplored. There's all kinds of upside. Here we were in a drill program. We're really just trying to quantify what we had and understand what we had better to plan for the future and to be able to generate a resource. And boom, we hit a brand new and significant zone. The other thing that drilling did was, we kind of scattered holes all around. Two were twins out of the 9 holes to basically confirm what was there. And it was, the mineralization was where it was supposed to be. We got about 25% better grade, which was a nice surprise in those assays. But the other holes were kind of feeling out edges and filling in big gaps. And what we see is the grade actually increases with depth. Right. So as you get deeper, it's taken from surface down to 250 meters plus. One of our deeper holes out on the edge hit one of these really big whoppers. I can't remember the exact grades off the top of my head, but we code our things from gold equivalent grams times drill length, right, and sort of these super whoppers that are better than 1,000 gram meter product. Right. Hit one of those on the edge, and what it's shown is that it's actually, the deposit seems to be flaring at depth, and there's actually quite a bit of open space there to add some more tons right in the deposit itself.
Well, and what, if anything, does that flaring tell you about the way it was formed?
It's a good question. I mean, right now, I don't know. I mean, what it tells me in terms of being able to add to the resource is, with the widths we're seeing, I mean, we're seeing the kind of grades that are typically mined over 2 or 3 meters, go to Timmins, go to Val-d'Or. These are those kind of grades, except we're seeing true widths of 30, 40, 50 meters plus. And it's quite informative to realize how quickly you can add ounces and tons with relatively modest step outs when you have those widths. A 20 meter step out with 40 meters is equivalent to a 400 meter step out with a 2 meter wide zone. A 100 meter step out is equivalent to a 2 kilometer step out in terms of your ability to build and add ounces and tons. So it's telling us a little bit about that. There's other things we've learned though on a bigger property scale, being up there though for that. First
and that was all when you guys picked it up. I mean, the JT zone. I mean, it's a very impressive zone, but it kind of is what it is. You went in there with an exploration thesis. I know you did a bunch of broader property scale work, but there are a couple of, in addition, I guess, whatever you found out this year, even going into it, there are a couple of obvious places to look for more tonnage in addition to going around the edges, right?
Yeah, exactly. So even before we got up there this year, we didn't get after it this year because we had a limited budget and limited window to get the work done. But the most glaring target is, this deposit, you're tracking it down, nice widths, nice continuity all the way down, and it's chopped off by a fault. So, and some of the best grade we're seeing, like there's a hole 70 meters of 20 grams gold, another one 104 meters of 12.5 grams gold, right up against that fault. So this thing, had to have kept going. We don't know how far it kept going. We think a long ways, but it's been offset. Well, the past workers actually figured out what that offset was. So it's down deep, it's down around 300 meters, but it's moved laterally about 500 to 800 meters to the northeast. And we know it's there because there's such distinct alteration that there's alteration shells basically around the deposit in the known area where you go through this, one type into another type, into the core, and then the very core is where the best grade is. Well, up there, they've gone through that alteration. It just kind of clipped part of the innermost core, and they got 11 grams over 3 meters, 1 or 2 grams over 10 or 12 meters, with 3 or 4 very widely spaced holes. So it's, that's where it has gone.
Right.
What we don't know is how big it is and how far it'll go. But it's pretty exciting to have that sitting there. So we knew that beforehand, and everything we've done supports that from what we've seen now. The big new takeaway, though, of this program was, if you actually restore that offset and you look at the geology on surface, the whole thing has a north-south trend, right? So all the drilling in the past has been this northeast orientation. It's an alteration footprint that's 2 kilometers long.
Right.
And you've had about 200 meters of that that's been seen any drill testing.
Okay.
And this new footwall zone we discovered has this north-south trend that kind of is coincident with that. So off to the north, we're very excited about what we see there and the opportunity there to drill as well. And, that's not even talking about the stuff that's 4 and 5 kilometers away, all the other prospects that are on the property.
Yeah, because there's a bunch of stuff up in the northeast corner that looked pretty interesting from pretty limited work. Because I guess obviously, I think there were 2 or 3 sets of past workers there, but I guess you start drilling 50 meters at 10 grams, you're like, screw that, everybody just goes to this one spot.
No, that's exactly right.
And we just focus on JT.
And then the last 5, the last operator, the majority of their energies were, they were looking at a direct ship mining scenario to one of their existing mines that was under capacity. So really they loved the exploration upside, but their budgets were heavily emphasizing the engineering to reach a production decision. And so because of that, that exploration opportunity has really been untested, even by the last operators, let alone the fact that it's sat there for 25 years, missing 2 or 3 cycles. So yeah, that's super exciting. There is one hole, or a couple of holes to the northeast on one prospect out of all these guys. It's called Difficult Creek. Excuse me, and it's generated similar grade, high grade gold with zinc and anhydrite, not 50 meters, but like 10 to 30 meter type intersections of mineralization up there that, and very limited drilling, drilled in 83 and never went back to. So we love that prospect. We're going to be advancing that along this coming summer and hopefully be drilling it in the last half of the summer. But,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and in addition to that, obviously you got a lot going on in Alaska, but the other thing that was spun into HighGold, the other gold projects, is you've got a series of projects in the Timmins camp in and around it.
Yeah.
And I believe, based on the fact that part of the race you just did was flow through, it's fairly safe bet you're going to be doing some work because you can't spend that stuff in Alaska. So what are the plans? Are there something a little more near term up in Timmins you're going to be working on?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have details on those coming out soon, but we will be drilling there, planning for late February, March, and into April. We'll probably test all 3 targets, but I think the lion's share will be dedicated to Munro Croesus, which is the one that's produced those fabulous high-grade samples in the past. And that'll be split. There's kind of multiple targets on that prospect. Everyone knows the historic samples. It's hard not to. And
this is Royal Ontario Museum stuff. If you go in there and look at these fabulous gold specimens that are hundreds and thousands of ounces per ton, it's off of this property, basically, off Munro Croesus.
Yeah, that's right. And, it was in private hands up until Constantine acquired it. Constantine did a little bit of work and then that got, was a little bit starved for capital and finally got spun out. So there has been a bit of work done there over the years looking for that high grade. It's kind of like, moss to a flame. But what you see, these vein structures are kilometer long, and there's several of them, and they tap back into the pipestone break, and there's never been any drilling on the rest of those structures. And you get gold at surface, right? You can go out there and get a half gram here, a couple grams there, up to 15 grams, just on these vein structures, and then immediately along trend, like 2-3 kilometers long trend, is a multi-million ounce bulk tonnage deposit in the pipestone. So you got the primary plumbing, you got gold endowment, you got gold in the percents at Croesus out here, and no modern systematic exploration where you have gold and outcrop in veins. And there's not a lot of places in Timmins that have that kind of setting that have had, I guess, the lack of exploration that this project has. So yeah, we're really excited about it. I mean, it's overshadowed obviously by Johnson, and but it's a really exciting play, and we've been holding out a long time to get back after it. So we're extremely excited to be there.
Okay, HighGold Resources, HIGH on the venture. Great set of projects, very strong management group, obviously tight share structure, lots of money. Darwin can hit all of this stuff really hard this year and probably still have quite a bit of cash left over. Given the kind of drill holes that Johnson Track has produced and the kind of grades that are possible and the amount of attention you probably get with a discovery in Timmins, because Timmins is a very highly followed camp, and that sort of deals with your seasonality issue. I mean, you're going to have very good news flow from now until probably the end of the year, essentially.
That's right. Yeah.
This is a great story. I mean, it's one HRA going on. I mean, we follow Constantine, but we were on this basically the minute it was spun out. I was waiting for a year for it to be spun out. It's like, come on, Darwin, today sometime, let's go, let's do it.
That's right.
So this is a great story that you absolutely got to be on and paying attention to. HIGH on the venture. Thanks for coming by, Darwin.
Yeah, thanks, Erica.